Well, we're going to do a show now. We're finally live. Huge technical issues on my end. I really can't wait to get moved into the new studio and buy a little bit more equipment so I don't have to tear this damn thing down every week. How are you doing, Derek?
Great, John.
Internet problems last night, video stream tonight. But like I say, we're an audio podcast, so I don't care.
That's true.
We're gonna get the release tomorrow morning. So I got to figure out where all my windows went for all the news that we were talking about. Did you have anything going on?
Do I have anything going on?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking? Nothing terribly interesting. I'm just glad, for once it's not my technical issues holding the show. So I remember back in the days when we first started and it was always my internet couldn't handle the show. And I'd disappear and reappear and just randomly converse. It was great.
Do you realize that, what I want to say? We've
been doing this for like 5 years.
No, this is the 1 year anniversary since we took this streaming.
Oh, really?
Yep. 1 year ago today. Because
happy anniversary. Hopefully our listeners all will send us a cake and we can celebrate.
Presents are accepted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think I've got my computer set up. I'm sorry, everybody. Hey, it looks like people are finding us.
Yeah, it was really weird. I got a notification from something called Traffic Jam 3 or something like that our show had started. I don't know what that is.
Well, that's what the show's called. Traffic Jams 3.
Oh, duh. That's the title of the show. I thought it was oh my God. Wow. Hey, I don't even know what the title of the show is tonight.
Well, the 1 year anniversary is streaming, and the 17th was the 5th anniversary of the show.
And we still have no clue what we're doing.
And do you know that I actually tried to get online tonight with the original setup, the old HP, the old Audio Technica mic, and still couldn't. So now I'm using 2 computers, a board, listening to myself talk twice. But that's not what everybody's here for, is hear me whine about technology. Let's talk about cars.
That's a type of technology.
Oh, yes, it is. And there's sure a lot of technology. And what are these articles switched to? Literally, I'm reading it, and it switched to French.
Evidently, they think you can read French, sir. Oui.
So what do you think of plastic suspension springs?
Plastic suspension springs. Well,
polymer springs reinforced with fiberglass.
I mean, we've had fiberglass suspension in the past. We've had fiberglass leaf springs. So how far off is it to have a spring?
I guess that's true.
Right?
This is something that Mercedes is playing with on a couple of their, I can't remember what the name of the prototype is. The Vision EQXX concept. It's a interesting little thing here.
I mean, we've also had bungee cord suspension, and now mostly on aircraft, but, we've used polymer types of things before as suspension. So innovation is innovation, right?
I believe so. So this falls into the category of nothing new isn't old.
Yes, exactly. Nothing new is new. It's all old. It's all old.
Let's see.
Except for I will say, the idea of running a vehicle on hydrogen, that, as far as I know, is a fairly new idea. I don't know of any older antique cars that attempted to run on.
I will go ahead and just throw in blimps. They didn't necessarily use it to run, but the old dirigibles.
Well, they used it lighter than air, but that's because it is lighter than air. It's not they're trying to power something. They were trying to get it off the ground.
Yeah, but it's still the use of hydrogen we just figured out how to use it in transportation a little better.
Yeah. Well, and I guess they did figure out how to make it combust. So
Yeah.
it didn't end well, but
I read an article, and I don't have it linked, that there is a company trying to reintroduce airship travel.
oh, there's been a few over the years. Yeah. And, obviously using helium, but I was reading somewhere that maybe that company you're talking about, one of them was experimenting again with hydrogen, but they were putting it into chambers rather than just the giant bag itself. There was some company looking into actually using like chambers of it that were, because of course, if it's a dirigible, which is a rigid, it has an actual structure. It's not a balloon that needs to inflate and deflate to do what it needs to do. But rather they just use the actual lighter than air pressure to make it float or sink Earth. And I was reading somewhere, and I think it was about a year or so ago, that somebody was playing around with like fireproof chambers within the dirigible to actually change be able to use hydrogen again.
Do you think the FAA would permit that? Or
I don't know. I doubt it, but I mean, if they can prove that they done something to make it safe, I don't know. I can't see that much hydrogen in one thing being approved ever again.
I'm looking at a picture of these springs, and it's not coil. It's kind of a zigzag thing. Take a piece of paper, fold it in half, then take half and fold it back.
So it's an accordion. It's an accordion.
Yeah, that's a good word.
It's an interesting concept. So I wonder what the hinge points are they just the fiberglass reinforced polymer, or do they have something else where it's going to this?
No, it looks like it's the whole thing. It's all a solid color with a mounting plate on the bottom and top.
Interesting. That will be interesting to see.
Kind of what I thought. Let me see if I can do.
And just so you know, yes, I was up for our audio podcast listeners. I was doing it again. I was making a motion with my hands and not describing what I was doing. A wonderful evening here at No Driving Gloves. So while you're doing that, John, can I rant about something? Because you're kind of looking for articles or images or whatever, and I know we've talked about this on the show many times. Oh, very interesting. So it's not actually a hinge. It's actually a rounded areas.
Yeah, this is one laying on side. They had another image with it vertically.
So for our audio listeners, think of ribbon candy. Think of what ribbon candy looks like. And that is what this new spring technology is.
See, it goes up and down.
Interesting. So anyway, my rant. We really need to fix driver's training in this country. I'm just going to say it again. People amaze me every day when the whole old leave, a good roughly two car lengths between you and the car in front of you, especially in heavy traffic when things, somebody could slam on the brakes at any moment. You do that anymore, and somebody just cuts into the spaces that you're leaving open for safety. And it's just, even if it's one space that a truck will barely fit into, they squeeze into it. It just drives me crazy. I'm sorry. It happened to me like 2 times this week driving to work, and it's just a joke.
I've really thought about adding a segment to the show being regular, and it's exactly that. What one driving incident pissed you off this week, and what one pissed me off?
It'll be like going back to Family Guy. You know what really grinds my gears?
That's exactly.
You watched that episode. So Colin has a restoration question about metal cleaning, if allowed. I really don't know why Colin is asking us questions, but go ahead, Colin, type your question in. And you could actually pre-send your question to the show so that we could have it already ready to go. Great question,
I'm not
John.
drunk. My problem is I'm listening to Derek on a completely separate computer, and it's really screwing with me talking.
It's actually kind of funny because there's some do it if you can get it. There's actually a app you can download on your phone to do exactly that. You can actually set the delay and you can talk into your phone and it will actually, you will hear it coming out of the earpiece and it will do it. You can set it to a 2-second delay, a 3-second delay, so on and so forth. And it will do exactly what John is doing. It will actually make you sound like you're drunk because your brain starts trying to listen to what's being said and you start losing the ability to process the thoughts to be able to talk properly. So it actually creates almost a mental situation that makes you like you're drunk and it's impairing your speech.
I've noticed it's really affecting.
Yes,
and
it
I'm
is.
Forgetting the last word to a sentence quite often.
Yeah, it's very interesting, John. It's quite fun. Maybe we should do it one night where all of us have a delay. So Colin is asking about soda blasting, laser cleaning, or wet blasting. So we just purchased a large laser. Good. Hey, Colin, I need to borrow. Thanks. Just go ahead and pack it up and send it down here to Nashville.
I wish I could do an impressions. Win $1 million.
The laser. So, Colin, I know your dad and I have talked about this. I thought you and I have talked about it. But so the issue that, okay, and I'm going to preface this by saying, and Colin, you know this, John knows this, every conservator, every restorer, anybody that works on a car, all has different opinions on techniques and processes to use. Will, we really don't care what you have to say. But most people I know, and I guess, okay, so it's going to depend on what you're blasting and why you're blasting it, in my opinion. Any type of media blasting. So if you're doing soda blasting or, sand blasting, glass bead, anything like that, soda tends to be the worst. If you're going to be painting that metal, the soda will actually embed most media will actually, some of it will embed itself into the metal. And there's been a lot of issues on vehicles that have been blasted after they're painted, and over a little bit of time, that media actually starting to work its way back out of the metal and actually causing issues with the paint. So that's the one thing I like about the laser process that's coming out, is that soda's hard to clean off. Yeah, exactly. But it not only is it hard to clean off, but they actually will embed into the metal. So that's the one thing I like about the laser, because it's not leaving anything behind from a media stand. So, but again, it's going to depend on the type of metal you're blasting, what you're doing to it, so on and so forth. I don't know what your thoughts are, John. If you can drunkenly super over your words.
I'm really not familiar with the laser blasting and that. I have interviewed a gentleman locally who owns Alabama Soda Blasting, and he has talked a lot about various types of blasting, and he doesn't do any sort of sand blasting, but he has so many different medias to choose from, plastics and fiberglasses, and I can't remember them all, walnut shells and peanut shells and corn cobs and things like that. Then he does a vapor blasting, which encompasses everything in water. And I've never been a big fan of any sort of blasting. But then again, I'm not a big fan of chemical stripping. Everything I think harms. And if what you're saying about the laser proves true, might not be such a bad thing. It's just, it changes the surface of the metal.
Yeah. So the laser is cool because, and look it up, John, because I think you'll appreciate it. And anybody listening, it's very interesting because you can actually set the depth of the laser to the surface. And so you can actually control the layers that you're removing. So you can actually kind of set the depth of the beam itself. It's a very interesting technology. I can't get deep into it because I haven't run one yet, and I'm this knowledgeable. I'm not bigly knowledgeable about it. But but it's very interesting to watch the videos and the process as it unfolds. And I'm now going to need to take a trip to Pennsylvania to play around with a laser ears. Or, those folks from Pennsylvania could swing on down to Nashville and we could have some fun.
I'm just thinking you set that depth, for 3 microns or 4 microns. And the way painters work, it's going to be really thick here, really thin there.
Yeah, well, you have to watch what you're doing, as anything you do in conservation, right? I mean, you have to pay attention. And,
we're talking restoration, not conservation. Jeez.
Well, but no, because I know Colin and what most of the experience I've seen these used in is for conservation. But it is a stripping method, right? It's no driving gloves after dark, ladies and gentlemen. Stripping methods. So it's interesting. I'm excited to hear more and learn more. I only know a couple conservators personally that have used one, so it will be interesting to hear what the Howards have to say.
Yeah, Walmart's got adapters, I think, for that stuff where you can plug. He says he hasn't used it yet because it has European plugs. So, or really, really long extension cords.
Yeah, you just cut the end off the cord, strip the wires back, just stick them in the socket and go that.
Works kind of well. That's why you're a parent, Derek.
Don't ever take advice from us. Mm-hmm.
So
great question, Colin. Thank you. But like I said, send them ahead of time and then we'll have things we can already be talking about.
Well, I'm going to jump in. This article, I'm going to say, has a familiar word. VW's hypercar brand purchased the crown in selective laser melting with a high strength titanium. They're basically reverse 3D printing the push rods on whatever the newest Bugatti is. So they, out of titanium, 3.5 ounces can withstand 3.5 tons of force. And they're starting with basically what a guy named Hammond used to tell me this. You'd ask him for something and he'd give you a block of steel. And you go, what? He goes, what you need's in there. You just have to cut off everything that you don't need. And that's exactly what they're kind of doing, is melting the titanium off so that they end up with a valve. It's kind of a reverse 3D printing process. But since we were talking lasers, we'll go lasers. Restoration nightmares and 100 years.
Laser restoration conservation. What it's very interesting what technologies are coming out and what we are starting to be able to do. I mean, even we talk about 3D printing, and I know we're getting kind of off ton. I'm sorry, but today at work, I mean, the guys in the shop were working on something. I went in to chat with them, and one of the cars needed a new shaft for the fan. And it's in a prototype car, all off the wall thing. So it's not like you're going to run down to Napa and get something. And so measurements, Pep Boys, whatever.
It's everything but gas.
All right. Well, unless they went to Mexican lunch, and they got the gas too. As John says, he's not drinks more beer. Nice.
It's open and it's this Kentucky bourbon barrel ale. I was thinking of you tonight, Derek.
Nice. But anyway, so needs this new, fan shaft to run the cooling fan off the pulley, blah, blah, blah. And, prototype car, what are we going to do? So measure, check, 3D print it. So you're not machining it first out of something more expensive. And, sure enough, it was slightly too long. So now the guys know they got to shave that measurement back a little bit to clear the fan blades. So it's just kind of cool where we're headed with things.
And that's what I always liked about the CNC top stuff as opposed, and the 3D printing, is the ability to make a part. The old boss used to hate it. You're only going to make one, so we can make it here on the Bridgeport, in the South Bend lathe. But if you miss it by a few fraction of an inch, you got to start all over, as opposed to going into your computer code, changing 1 or 2 lines of code, and everything else comes out exactly the way it was.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of over-teching things.
Well, and there's times where you can over-tech something for good, but I'm going to be the stalwart here, I guess, but there's also times where you can overtech things for the worse. And I'm thinking of well-preserved original cars and modifying things because they didn't work as well as they could now. I am a big opponent of modernizing things in a museum setting, or in a setting where you have a well-preserved antique car or anything. I really, any artifact or any historic object. One of the things I hate, one of the biggest things I hate, is electric fuel pumps on cars, antique cars that had vacuum pumps or just gravity-fed fuel systems. Because
for some reason, when you started
doing,
I thought fuel pumps.
Yeah, all you're doing is overpressurizing carburetor that's built to run at the specific gravity of gas and be gravity fed. Because even a vacuum tank in an early car is simply a method of getting the fuel from the gas tank that is now lower at the back of the car to a higher point on the firewall and then gravity feed it down to the carburetor. And people just don't get that. And then they're like, well, why doesn't my car run? It seems to run kind of rich. And, I'm having carburetor issues. It's because you're pushing too much fuel into the carburetor and it can't handle it. And I have not found a single regulator anywhere that goes below. I think the lowest one I've ever found is 1.5 pounds. And the specific gravity of gasoline, real true gas, not ethanol. You have to start playing around when you get ethanol blend and stuff like that. But it is below 1. I used to know it. I think it's like 0.76 something pounds. And so you think about that. If you've got something that's around supposed to be fed at about 0.76 pounds, and you're trying to feed it 1.5 pounds of pressure or more, what do you think's going to happen?
I see 5.
I've seen that happen.
You sort of force something in it, too much pressure, it's going to find a way out through the point of least resistance, which is probably going to aerate a warm engine block or exhaust manifold or who knows what.
So, Jason, the problem is a lot of times when you try to overpressurize an early carburetor like that, one of the, valves or, something can't, typically it's the float and feed valve that can't handle it. And usually you wind up a lot of times just spilling gas all over the place. And like John said, wonderful fire starts up. Because you're constantly just overfilling the fuel bowl.
Pause as we change topics.
Oh, I don't know. I was just thinking you thought you might have something to say about it, John.
Nope. I kind of said it when it push it in too hard comes out the weakest part.
That's definitely another no driving gloves after dark conversation.
So and we don't have Will here tonight, and it looks like he's probably dropped from commenting.
We did have Will in the comments. Evidently can comment, but he can't be on.
And I don't know which way to go because I got 2 stories to irritate him. Lotus new division, they have their production cars that are going to be everything introduced after 2023 will be electric. The Emira is the last gas-powered car. Now they've introduced a new bespoke division where they're going to take classic Lotus cars and they're going to take drawings of Lotus cars that were never produced and build them for clientele. You'll go in and you'll pick out, I want this car that they never built and, Chapman designed in 73. And it's a neat concept. I don't know how the hell it's going to be affordable. And then I read the first one is actually going to be like a 78 Esprit S1, and they're going to electrify it. Wow. Let's build something that's exciting. I don't know what's on the drawing room floors. Maybe they could go back and build the Lotus 5.
There you go.
Which kind of exists. I can't remember what it's called, but it was abandoned halfway through the build and somebody bought it and finished it Claremont Special. But that was a Lotus design that was never completed.
And they still haven't found the actual Mark 1, have they?
No.
I didn't think so. Yeah.
I personally believe the Mark 1 became the Mark 2.
Really? Even though they sold the Mark 1?
No. The Mark 1 just disappeared.
See, I thought I read that they had found a receipt somewhere that he had sold it for, and they had a certain amount, like 400 some pounds or something like that, to somebody that lived in the north of England.
That would be in a ridiculous amount of money for that point in time.
I don't remember. Yes. I'd have to go look at the book again.
I just look at Chapman's being so broke and nickel and diming everything that the Mark 1 could easily have become the Mark 2. They were both Austin 7 based. We didn't have a Mark 2, but we had a Mark 3 and a Mark 4. Or did we?
And saying we, you mean the barber?
Yeah, I'm going. Yeah. No, we did have a Mark 1, a Mark 2. We ended up with a 3 and a 4.
And they were all replicas. Is that correct?
No, the one was a real car. The one was a replica.
I was going to say the one can't be a replica.
The 2 was a replica. The 3 is original, and the 4, which they only built one of, is an original. Our buyer was actually on a trip to talk to the guy who built the 1 and the 2 about building us a 4, and they stopped somewhere to look at another car, and when they arrived, the guy had the Mark 4 parked out front, and he was hinting that he'd sell it. So we stumbled across the Mark 4 for very close to what the estimate was to have it replicated.
There you go.
And then we had Clive at the museum in 17, I think it was.
You know, that's
the first time he ever drove the Mark 4.
Oh, very nice. But there's something else. You know, we keep talking about getting some interviews lined up. And John, I know you and I got to probably sit down and have one of our podcast meetings off air. But there's another person we need to get on the cast. We need to get Clive on. Talk about what he's doing with Classic Team Lotus.
I've talked to Richard Paramount about coming on the show. He's a real Lotus guy. He's worked for Lotus from the 60s. He's a public speaker now and all this kind of stuff. But he knows a ton of. And who I would like him to manipulate is get Bob Dance on the show.
Bob would be great. Not only have on the show, but just see again and talk with. So I'd love to connect with Clive and Bob.
But
all right, we're adding that to the list.
A lot of movement happening in the Lotus in the classic world. Mm-hmm. William Taylor was just hired by Classic Team Lotus. He's a fairly famous author in the Lotus world. He wrote the Lotus book and things like that, but he's also got excellent books on Senna, Bugatti, McLaren, a lot of the F1 cars and things like that. Owns a Coterie Press out of Colorado, but looks like he's moving back to his homeland and he's taking some sort of director position in the Classic Team. So a bit of news there and reminiscing. I don't know who Derek knows in that scheme because he's worked directly with Clive in that on some restorations. And obviously I passed Clive a couple of times in my life. But where was I going from that? After we leave Lotus, did anybody catch the Tesla news from about a week ago?
Oh, I did not.
There were 2 parts of this article.
Sorry, I thought I'd try to get you excited. No, I haven't heard anything about Tesla.
Well, early in June, they cut 10% of their workforce. On the same day, they told all salary employees, you must report to the office for a minimum of 40 hours a week. If you don't want to do it, quit.
A minimum 40 hours a week?
Yes.
Yeah, that's. I'd be like, I'll be here for exactly 40 hours a week, and that's what you're getting.
Yeah, I give you 40 hours in a minute. You're dealing with Musk, and he's the guy that sleeps in his office, and I almost said something I probably shouldn't get sued for.
Yeah,
and then
be careful. We want no driving gloves to keep going.
On the 23rd, they came out with an article. Musk sat down with CNN and was discussing Tesla in light of the downsizing, the mandated work, And Musk talked about the inefficiencies of his new factories in Texas and Europe, the supply chain issues. And he basically said that he's doing all he can, but he is foreshadowing that Tesla will declare bankruptcy within the next 2 years.
Interesting.
Yeah, I said interesting too, because people think of bankruptcy as a bad word and a bad
It's just,
thing.
it's not. I mean, it's just a way to restructure.
And that's what I'm thinking. Everybody's going to be afraid of Tesla's bankruptcy. If Tesla declares bankruptcy, how much of their debt are they going to be able to write off and then continue? You know, how much of this, the loans from the government, how much for the building loans and construction loans? It sounds like something that wealthy people do.
Well, and how many of the lawsuits against them are unsettled still? Because bankruptcy can get you around lawsuits as well.
Yes. See, there's a gentleman that used to be president that has declared bankruptcy multiple times and always got trashed for it in the media. It's a strategic thing to do every single time, especially at the corporate level. At the personal level, if you plan for it and that, you can benefit just as much. But corporations do it as a way of doing business and restructuring, like you said, restructuring debt or eliminating debt. So I don't know if this is a panic thing or Musk is just saying things so when it happens, it's a gentler blow, doesn't affect the stock as much, and he gets to write off $500 million or $1 billion or something.
Well, and you say it's people get trashed in the media, companies get get trashed in the media about it, and it's a restructuring thing. But I think it's the trashing in the media is more about, is it really it's hard to say, is it the right thing to do, but is it the ethical thing to do? To declare bankruptcy because you have debt and you don't want to pay it back. Like, is that, I'm sorry, but you're kind of screwing people over.
Well, your business ethics teacher is not going to teach you that, but your finance guy probably will.
If I remember linguistics class right, isn't business ethics an oxymoron?
Exactly. So that was just another article that had popped up, and I just kind of wanted to get my 2 cents in early in this.
Well, we're a car podcast. I'm going to leave it alone, Jason. Jason made a comment about student loans. We're just going to right on by that.
I have my sayings about that.
Yeah,
if Jason buys me a lunch, I'll tell him.
Yeah, we'll talk cars. I was going to say something, and Jason's comment totally distracted me. What was the last thing you said, John? Now I'm trying to remember. It was Tesla, and then crap.
It's Tesla, business ethics, and
yeah, I totally had something, and I saw Jason's comment, and it just threw me off. Dang. All right. Well, anyway,
I'll just throw something out there for Jason. I know a lot of people who did a lot of jail time for marijuana, and now it's legal. They don't get their time back.
I was thinking, everybody just declares bankruptcy and debts.
Can't do it on student loans.
I know. I wonder why. Oh, because it's personal business. We're getting way too far off cars.
Yeah, I was going to give you a tip on declaring bankruptcy too. But, what
personally, I hope I never have to do it.
Collectingcars.com is having another Supercar Sunday on July 3rd. 40 ultra rare supercars are going across. This is Chris Harris's auction site trying to compete with Bring a Trailer, but they're running some interesting vehicles. Supercars, they say super rare, but I mean it's a Ferrari 430 16M, which is kind of built a couple hundred, and Porsche GT3s and Lamborghini Huracans. I bring that up because I want to touch back to the texting Derek and I did on Saturday.
Yes, we actually talk through text sometimes.
Yes, there was a government seizure, bank repo type auction mixed in with a few personal cars that took place at the Barber Vintage Motorsports Museum this last weekend with what I want, Henderson auction.
Yes.
And I commented to Derek that I thought there were some pretty good steals. Well, I guess what I meant is, and what Derek ended up, I think what we ended up agreeing is what we felt were fair market values and not.
It definitely seemed like things were back to more normal pricing.
I saw a few that did sell for a little on the high side. I did have a friend, I believe, bought a really, really kick-ass car at it. Fits him perfectly. But they had some outboard motors and that, but a lot of things desirable in the $20,000 and $30,000 range that definitely at the big auctions have been trading hand for 50 or 60, and the asking prices are always that or more. So I just wonder if we're beginning to finally see some of the corrections. I know I've seen it in the cigar business and the retail sales there, and I've seen it in customer habits, dealing with my computer jobs and talking to various people that some sanity is prevailing into the wallets and the cars. So I think,
sorry, I'm reviewing I never reviewed all of the sale prices because when you sent me it was still all going on and I was kind of watching live. So I'm just looking and I agree. I think I still feel the same that there's most of these are, let me go back to it. There we go. Are pretty reasonable prices, ooh, wow. The 1920 Oakland Roadster was a no sale. That is impressive. I'm surprised. And 25 Willis Overland 91A, not a fantastic car. Looks fully restored.
Is that?
Yeah, they were kind of crappy built.
Was that Willis or Willie Overland?
Willis Overland.
No. What does the action say?
It doesn't matter what it says. It matters how you pronounce it. It is spelled Willys through the history of the whole company, but the family name is pronounced Willis. John North Willis.
And I was going to say, just because it was in Birmingham didn't mean there wasn't money there, or it was Birmingham. A lot of online bidders. I know they had a couple cars go for $1 million plus. Some cars in that $500,000 range. So money was in the room, or at least online. So
it was there. Oh, here
it wasn't. It was just, excuse me, but a bunch of Southern hicks just Uncle Jesse and Boss Hogg bidding on these things.
39 Delage D670 with a Fagoni and Falashi drop head coupe. 530,000. That's respectable for that car, and I don't think that's overpriced. Actually, there was the Peugeot. I don't know how to properly say it, but Darmat, DARL apostrophe MAT. I've never figured out how to say that. I got to ask somebody that speaks French. 610,000. Probably a few years ago. I bet you even today, if you would have sent that car to Bonhams, this auction it sold for 610,000. I'll bet you if you pushed it through Bonhams, and I wouldn't be surprised if this car doesn't come up at Bonhams in the next year or two, but I bet you they would push it to 850 to
yeah, I think some of those cars were probably bought for resale.
Yeah,
because keep in mind these were government repos or bank repos or government seizures, DEA seizures, IRS seizures, things like that. So traditionally the government auctions aren't that hyped in that, so you'll pick up a deal, but I thought it was fair across the board. And I know there was money in the room.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still just reviewing it here. I mean, it doesn't seem terrible. There's a couple that I would say, I wouldn't have paid that for it, but they're the big in things right now, right? 86 Chevy square body K10, 31,000. To me, not worth 31,000, but to some people it is.
I got a buddy who's got one for sale for 50, I think.
Ooh, now here's some nice car haulers. Yeah, that would have been nice. All right. Yeah. So
I just wanted to touch on the barber thing and sane prices that happened there. I didn't go. To be honest, I didn't learn about it until just a couple days before, and it really surprised me. I missed Will's autocross due to a personal thing that came up on Saturday. understand it was pretty accessible. Same guy won it overall, I think, that won it last month. They did have Sean up there with his racing simulator. I didn't hear how the lunch hour went with the Power Wheel racing, and I haven't looked up the new dates, but I will bet if you go to nodrivinggloves.com/grip, you will see the new motorsport.reg page. And I'm going to say it. It's kind of funny. The Alabama SCCA was supposed to have an event at Barber's on the same day on the Proving Grounds, which has always been a really hot venue. They had to cancel because of lack of participation, and Will's was oversold. So, but with that, we're going to go ahead and close it out. So it's about 10 like normal. We're sorry for the late start. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Hopefully we get it a little bit smoother in the next couple of weeks for the video people. I go to my new studio, move into it late July. And by August, we should be broadcasting from there. And at present, I have to tear this thing down to go to a remote client. By then, I hope to have equipment bought that I'm not tearing down. When I build my studio, that's where things stay.
Permanent studio.
So,
and next week, we'll all be drunk.
Yeah, I think I got better when I turned down the other computer. I'll have to listen back to this. And Derek, quit making up car names.
Car names. Yeah. Hey, at least I say Peugeot, right? You know, I mean, I didn't say Puget.
Okay.
Well, there are Americans that think it's pronounced It's Peugeot.
I can't remember how I wanted to mispronounce it now.
Yeah, Peugeot.
Well, I'm going to push this little red button. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in that did. Sorry about the last night stuff. For the audio listeners, you're great. NoDrivingGloves.com to look any back episodes, audio or video. You can check that out for our Amazon page. A lot of things we recommend, a lot of books by previous guests, and we'll keep updating that in expectation of Prime Days in July. And I've got still some stuff to give away here. I got some keychains that are shipping out, some stickers that were going out, but shoot me an email on nodrivinggloves@gmail.com. Shoot me an email, ask for a sticker. You can have a sticker. I think I'm going to save some of the big prizes till the new studio, but we've got the Bluetooth headphones coming up. We got the leather honey. I'm working on a couple others. We might toss out some Amazon gift cards on the live show over the next couple of weeks as we head into Prime Days. So there might be some free money to listen to the show.
Ooh.
So with that, I'm out of here.
See ya.
I got to find this button. There we go. And we're going to be